which ones are the illegals and which ones are the ones that have the status.
The unemployment rate is determined by looking at the number of active job seekers, which doesn't include people that were deported.
Micah, did you just hear what I said? I said that the economists, when they make those reportings, they're not telling you who's illegal and who has status and who doesn't. They're accounting for everyone. So those mass deportations that you're claiming was 2 million, part of the reason why unemployment went up was because of that reason.
That doesn't make any sense because those people aren't counted in the labor force.
They are counted.
This right. So please. And why would you? And the only reason you support Ukraine is because it benefits us.
I would support USAID if it benefits America in some way.
Yeah, this is like the unchristian piece, right? Like if you're just a secularist who's like, honestly, I'm selfish as long as it benefits me, then I'm happy.
Are you even American? Wait a second. Are you even American?
That would be fine. No, I'm Canadian.
Oh, okay. So that's why I don't care about putting America first. You're Canadian.
You don't even understand your own foreign policy. That's not a dunk like you think it is. I can assure you, my friend, if a Canadian understands your politics better than you do, that's a dunk on you.
I support you going back to Canada and being Canada first over there, and I'm going to be America first here.
I'm a legal immigrant of America. Is that a problem for you? Don't clap, please.
I don't know. I think it's fine. I support a moratorium right now, so.
White, so that's a good one, right?
I'll let you stay. It's okay.
Well, are you happy? Are you okay with me being an immigrant in your country?
I just said I'll let you stay, sure.
I don't, okay.
We'll take a few
from
Canada, that's fine, I guess.
Okay, so if we want to go back, for example, U.S. generosity is the leading form of global health and humanitarian relief. USAID saves lives by preventing HIV, preventing AIDS, disrupting labor issues.
On the other side of the world. We have
why, as a nation who was born on, you would probably argue, Christian values, why would a nation develop for centuries to have a policy of understanding and helping others, not just within our borders, but outside of it, and now you as a great, smart Christian nationalist comes along and says, actually, it's more Christian to only care about Americans, because I think somewhere in the Bible, God says, God loved everyone, but actually he only liked Americans, right? I think it's probably Galatians 3:28. Let's see. There is both Greek and non-Greek, nor Jew, nor branded, or free, whole, or female, for one of you, all in one Christ.
Have you heard of the concept of ordered love?
Yeah, of course.
So do you agree with it?
It depends. What does this even mean? In what context?
In a context, like I mentioned before, caring for your family before other people.
So again, it depends on what we mean. Like if I say neglect your family, well, why are you laughing? Of course, right? If you say, should you neglect your family? No, obviously not. But the issue is that
But what if you're neglecting your family to help other people? Is that justified in your...
Of course not.
Okay, so
I just said neglect is bad. But the issue is you're acting, the America First paradigm acts like this is a zero-sum game.
Why can't you just do, like, we live in a beautiful paradise, basically, compared to the rest of the world. Can't we do charity work that benefits us geopolitically?
Game, right? The idea that you have to like put America first and foremost, while, as you said, is maybe a good idea if all you care about is being greedy and concerned with your own self. But again, you're a Christian. Christians should not be fundamentally focused on only helping others because it benefits them, which is what you said. You said, I'll help them, but only if it benefits me. There's not a single fucking thing that's Christian about that, right? Christianity is fundamentally about generosity to others. It's about looking at people and seeing them with love. It's about looking past the borders and saying, you are loved because God made you, not because you're American, not because you're white. That's Christian. And what you're doing, you can have these principles, but you don't for a second get to pretend that it's Christian.
I think it's just like odd that you come here from Canada to America and say, I want your country to support foreign policy that is detrimental, or economic policy or immigration policy that hurts America but helps other countries. And I find that very strange. And I think this is like why I think we need to like take a look at our immigration system and like be like,
Sarah,
what are we doing
Sarah,
here?
If your best dunk is, aren't you Canadian, but I'm still beating you on understanding of American foreign policy, that's not it.
But you quite literally go to another country and tell them you need to support policy.
I don't know why you'd ever argue with
Do you think that I think Canada should be only Canada?
I love it. What's her name? Erudite. Like, just don't argue with women that are actually smart. If you want to be a sexist, just run away from them like a bitch.
Canada first?
You should, yeah. I think you should.
I'll ask you my question again. Do you think that my predisposition is that if I went to Canada, I'd just be Canada first?
I support French being French first. I support Ethiopians being Ethiopia first.
You've made it clear. You're selfish. We get it. You only help others if it benefits you. You've made that very clear from the beginning. USAID, will I stop malaria? Will I stop children in Africa from dying? Well, does it benefit us? I'm a Christian, by the way. God's love is awesome.
Do you think that people in Japan are like, oh, I want policies that hurt Japan and help, like,
what's hurting America about USAID? What's hurting America about USAID?
Sending our billions of our tax dollars to people
How is that hurting America?
Because that money could go to our people and
couldn't you say the same thing about Ukrainian, all the arms that we're sending them? Why are we sending them arms? Shouldn't we keep it for ourselves?
Well, because
we might need it.
Well, because there's foreign policy, like you mentioned, like how supporting Ukraine could in turn benefit America because they're an ally.
Yeah, so you're talking one side of your mouth and you're insisting that the policy that I'm suggesting is detrimental. But then you again outline how all the policies I've listed here are both practical. And on the other side of your mouth, you're trying to be like, well, don't you think that it would be bad to neglect your family? Yeah, it's bad to neglect your family. They're like doing like the bottom barrel, like, don't you think rape is bad? Yeah, we've gotten there. The issue is that fractions exist and things like trillions of dollars exist, which is why we had U.S. aid. It's why we
look,
had this
that
foreign
is
policy.
beautiful.
Not only did we have this foreign policy because it's good for America,
What is
but as a
this?
Christian, I would like to support it if we can afford it because it's the right thing to do.
Do you want to move to immigration?
No, we're not here to debate immigration. We're here to debate America versus Christian.
That's part of the America First policy, right? So I support an America
She's got rid of brown people when in trouble. She's like, but brown people are kind of weird, right?
You can calm down. It's okay. I support an America First policy that benefits Americans over people from foreign nations, and I think that should be reflected in our immigration policy too. So, for instance, with the working class, we've lost so much of our industrial jobs because they've been sent free trade issue, but we've been sending so much of our jobs overseas, and in the same way, because we've been letting so many people flood in the borders, it's a lot harder for the working class to find jobs.
So in 2017, there was a tariff imposed on the steel manufacturing industry to try to bring steel manufacturing back to America. Do you know what it did for American jobs in steel manufacturing? Didn't think so. What it did is it shrunk jobs. The reason that we export labor is because Americans are paid for their time, not for their labor, whereas overseas it's typically the end product of their labor. Now, you and I could have a long, lengthy conversation about how that's probably bad, but that would be a liberal talking point, not a conservative talking point. And while I might have issues with the way that we economically handle other countries, insofar as we often take advantage of their poverty, which I think is not good, the reason that we export labor like this
this is beautiful. This map is so
It's
beautiful.
cheaper for corporations, yes, but it ends up hurting American workers because their wages have been steadily
And you should get on my side and say that we should have actual, like, effective policy to hold corporations responsible for the way that they decimate American lives.
I agree with that. But why are you assuming
So you're
what
for,
my
like,
position
taxing
is?
corporations more?
Sure. I'm also for closed borders. I'm also for like reshoring our manufacturing. I'm also for policies that support American workers rather than immigrants.
Do you know why H-1Bs are so important to? Let's focus on one industry, cybersecurity. Do you know anything about the cybersecurity industry?
Not that much.
Okay.
No.
Okay, let's just take this more
sorry.
broadly. Do you know why H-1Bs are so valued in America and why your president doesn't want to get rid of them?
Because Indians do work for cheaper, and they also usually are able to work longer hours because their jobs are tied to their visas, so they're much easier to be abused by their employers, and that's why. Yes.
So that's one
So
reason.
it's actually good for corporations. It's not good for all the people we told to get STEM degrees who now went to Silicon Valley and can't get a job because they're too expensive.
That's not what's happening in Silicon Valley. That's not why the unemployment issue. The reason that there's an unemployment issue is because there's a massive staffing bubble that happened during COVID, in particularly soft industries like cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, one of the reasons why H-1Bs are so essential for that industry is because the level of training, you basically need to have, like, your last certification needs to be updated within, like, the last year or two. So a lot of American trained people, they just don't have it. We actually cannot fill jobs at high levels. So the reason we have H-1Bs is we pull the people over so that they can fill these jobs. And now I agree with some of the abuses that happen to these individuals. Again, this is a liberal talking point. I don't like that. I would like to see things like better hours managed and better equal pay, which actually Biden suggested doing a lot of these things. But you guys shut down the immigration bill because you wanted to win an election. You don't actually want to solve your problems.
All right, and that wraps up this debate. Holy hell, that was spicy. That was really good. That was one of our best yet. Wow. All right. So we will be pulling up our next individuals. Give it up for Sarah. And give it up for Not So Everyday. All right, y'all. Let me pull up my roster, okay? I'm getting there. All right. Okay, guys. Can everyone hear me? Kind of. Is this better? Is that one? Maybe not? Okay. Introduce you guys. All right, y'all. For your next debate, we have representing the Democratic side, Brian Shapiro. All right. I know it's Steve. And then on the Republican side, we have Alex Stein.
I don't know where Sean is.
Sean Mike Kelly, we need
Sean
you.
Kelly,
Come
we
on
need
down
you,
to the
Sean.
stage, Sean. We got give it up for our moderator tonight. You guys have seen him all online. He's on Spotify, YouTube,
I can make an opening statement. Is that okay?
Yeah, but let's get Sean. Guys, give it up
There
for
he
Sean
is.
Mike Kelly. Give it up for him a little. Okay. Well, fuck, Sean. Damn.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2.
I thought you guys were progressive. That was very nice.
Okay, you guys ready?
I'm born ready, Brian.
I'm
What about
ready.
you? Are you ready?
I'm ready. Nice hat, by the way.
Thank you. I love it.
All
They're
right,
giving
so-
free merch, free lighters. I like the Un-F America tour. They're pretty nice.
Can I just say one thing real quick? First of all, Alex, thank you for being here. I'm being serious
I
here.
know.
To Myron Gaines and Andrew Wilson, who are two pieces of shit, who are wussies, who they were supposed to be here today, and they are little bitches. So to Andrew and Myron, go fuck yourself.
Well, I love Andrew and Myron, so I stand with
All right,
Myron.
let's have a friendly little conversation
Let's go.
about
Wait,
trans people, right? Trans people? Okay, who wants to lead off? 1 minute intros.
What was it? It's not trans and women's sports, but what was it? Was just trans overall. Okay. Well, let me just tell you something.
Opening statement.
My
Is
opening
this
statement,
the
why
guy?
Time Alex Stein thinks the
Yep.
transgender movement is absolutely horrible for society is because what we are doing is the majority of people that actually identify as non-binary or trans are actually retarded. They're actually autistic. Yes, the majority of people that are. Yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. So if we're going to let a retard pick their gender, that's ridiculous. We wouldn't let a retard get a tattoo. We wouldn't let a retard barely order off the kids menu at dinner. I'm not going to let a retard cut off their genitals. Now, that is what we're dealing with. Is we're dealing with people that have a mental illness called gender dysphoria, and we have sick doctors that are actually not just facilitating this, they're enabling this mental illness and making it much, much worse by cutting off a child's breast. So I'm sick of these trannies trying to go in women's restrooms and take a dump. And this is why in Texas we did a good thing and we outlawed transgenders in women's bathrooms because, let me tell you why.
This guy's fucking. This guy's a fucking monkey.
Transgenders want to wear a little man suit and come poop next to me in the bathroom.
I'm losing my brain cells listening to him.
You homosexual faggots that like to put on a dress and walk into the women's restroom so you can look under the damn fucking stall. So I'm sick of you fags trying to invade our spaces. You need to make your dad proud. Your dad's ashamed of you for being a faggot. You need to stop being one now.
We're on YouTube. I got this. I find it interesting. By the way, I appreciate Alex being here, but he didn't want to talk about Donald Trump. He didn't want to talk about the 129 pages.
Well,
hold on a second.
Let him respond.
He didn't want to talk about the 129 pages that were the Epstein files that weren't released. Jeez, I wonder why. He doesn't want to talk about healthcare. He doesn't want to talk about the economy. He doesn't want to talk about any of those topics. You know what he wants to talk about? Transgenders in women's bathrooms. This is how stupid some of these MAGA Republicans are. Hold on a second. Be quiet. Okay, this is my turn to talk.
Let him finish.
They think that somebody would have
Damn,
transgender surgery.
I heard that bellies. I like it. Let me tell you something, Alex. Alex Stein's a fucking Jenner. I didn't know he was that bad, actually.
Yeah, no, that's actually true. I lost my virginity to a transgender. My football coach is now a woman. But listen, it's funny, Brian, because I actually like Brian even though he's libtarded.
I like Alex too.
Even though he's
a mushroom gobbler.
But with the trans issue, honestly, if you are an adult, like we live in a free country, you want to cut off your penis, that's okay. But where it really gets sick is that an adult ever telling a child they're born in the wrong body. But you have to admit that's evil. Like if you're an adult, maybe that's okay.
How have transgenders negatively affected you in your life? Tell me.
The last 8 mass shootings have all been transgender.
Give me a fucking break. That's not true.
Every time I go to a public event, I'm worried about some transgender with a machine gun on my brains out. So yeah, they affect my life.
I know facts sometimes don't matter to Trump mushroom gobblers, but let me just explain to Alex one thing. Hundreds and hundreds of mass shootings in the last couple of years. There have been 6 mass shooters, okay? But they want to blame transgenders and brown people for all their problems. Why don't you blame the orange 34-count felon liable abuser?
You know, I want amnesty for all big booty Latinas. If you're a 9, you're fine. So do not label me anti-brown. I'm brown.
Alex, you have not answered my question. Alex, you have not answered my question. How have transgenders personally negatively affected you in your life?
On a serious note, transgenders have benefited me because Leah Thomas's propeller in that pool, I was able to gamble on that tranny. I won enough money to turn drag kings into drag queens. So yes, there have been times where I've been able to exploit some sick gender dysphoric sicko. And there's been times where gender dysphoric sicko have made me feel uncomfortable. So it is what it is.
Alex, calm down. Notice, ladies and gentlemen, how he didn't answer the question. You know why?
No, I did answer it. I did answer it.
Transgenders, the people that complain about transgenders the most are either people that are attracted to transgenders, which by the way, there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Or people that were touched by somebody when they were a kid. Or
no. Hey, you know why?
Because he wasn't negatively affected by transgenders. He's just obsessed with them.
Brian, let me give you one stat. Did you know that over 76% of gay men say that they were sexually molested in their childhood?
What poll are you referring to?
God. We're really picking the fucking 2016 arguments and bringing them to 2025. 2015 arguments. Next is gonna, please. Apache attack helicopter. Just for me, just for old time's sake.
If I was gay, say they were sexually molested.
Okay, but what does transgender have to do with being gay? The two have nothing in common with each other. What are you talking about?
Well, first of all, you're telling me being trans and being gay have nothing in common.
There are people that are trans that would say they're not gay.
I know, as soon as you transition, though, you become gay.
Okay, I'm going to be serious here, okay? All the problems we have in this country.
What is the stat, though? What is the stat?
46%.
Well, 46.
Yeah, he was off this by a little bit. Alex, all the problems we have in this country right now, I think we would agree. There's a lot of gun violence.
Yes, I agree.
We have issues with healthcare.
We do live in a violent country.
There's a lot of issues. This is not a top 5 issue. It's not a top 10 issue. It's a top transphobic issue. That's what it is.
Well, no, because this is the thing, is that you have all of these kids, their balls are infected with microplastics, and now they're all becoming feminine. They're all becoming soy boys. They're all becoming females. And so we need to change that. That's why the birth rate is declining. That's why the white population is less than 8%. It's because all the white people are being infected by all of the first world problems that we're affected by.
The birth rate is being affected because Donald Trump just gave the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in this country.
Giving a kid Lupron, which is a hormone-disrupting drug, it's the same drug that we give pedophiles to castrate them. You're telling me that wouldn't affect the birth rate? Lupron, look at Lupron, the hormone blocker. It's the same drug we give to castrate pedophiles. It's the same drug that is prescribed to kids that are going through gender transition.
Alex, how many kids do you have?
Well, I mean, that I pay child support for, too. That I've raised none.
All right, fair enough. The problem that I have with this argument is you really didn't answer my question. The question was, if you care so much about the issue with transgenders, how is it affecting you negatively in a personal way?
No, on a serious note, when I went and I testified at the Texas State Senate hearing about the trans bathroom bill, when my girlfriend's in there, some gargoyle in a dress went and took a dump next to her, and that did affect me. It pissed me off. It made me want to go
here's my opinion, okay?
And when I felt like a violation of my girlfriend. I'm not just saying that to be goofy. I'm telling you that's how it felt.
When I go to the bathroom, I go in there to do my business, and I leave. The idea, there's no study that supports what Alex is saying, which what he's trying to say is transgenders have a higher probability of assaulting somebody in a bathroom. That is not factually accurate, and this is, again, I go back to what I said earlier. The idea that someone would have a transgender surgery and mutilate or whatever he wants to say their genitals so that they can go into a different restroom is probably the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. It's not happening. Alex has no facts behind his opinion on this. It just is not true.
You're delusional, dude.
I'm delusional.
There's guys trying and fighting all over the state
If somebody wants to assault a child, they're going to go in there and they're not going to have transgender surgery first. It's ridiculous.
No,
you call people retarded.
You can assault somebody with your eyes. You can assault somebody with your eyes. You don't have to touch them. So by just going into a bathroom, if you're a
so
transgender,
looking at somebody as sexual assault, in that case,
bathroom,
Donald Trump is committing
in a
millions of
bathroom,
sexual
looking
assaults.
over a stall, under a stall, looking at a kid in a bathroom, that's still assault. You don't have to physically touch them. So, yes,
can
a transgender with wandering eyes can be considered sexual assault.
By your premise, can a guy who hasn't been have transgender surgery look at a kid that way as well? What is your premise of this argument?
Of course, but I'm just saying the natural law of order is men go to the men's room, women go to the women's room.
Where's your study?
Of course, believe it or not, yes, there's men pedophiles. You're one of them, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't. It's not. No, I'm kidding. Brian's not. No,
Hold on. Let me just be clear on this, okay? The guy who supports a 34-count felon, liable sexual abuser, who's had 25 women accuse him of rape or sexual assault, including his ex-wife in court documents, Alex Stein supports that guy, okay?
Yeah,
Alex Stein supports a pedophile.
First of all,
he's all over the Epstein
at least
files.
he's not a homo like Barack Obama married to a chick with a dick. And let me tell you something. Donald Trump's a real man. You saw how he handled Stormy Daniels.
Right,
like she described his penis as not small, so I think he's doing okay.
Alex's identification of a real man, a guy who wakes up in the morning and puts on 8 layers of orange makeup, looking like the fucking clown that he is.
You would understand fashion. You would never understand.
He's a draft-dodging coward.
Brian, do you think you know anything about fashion?
You're the guy wearing that hat.
I mean, I don't know anything about fashion, but Donald Trump is a fashionista. He's an icon. He's had his own clothing line. So you wouldn't understand
it's just
fashion,
a
Brian. It's above your pay grade.
huge, just all the joke. I forgot.
And put on 8 layers
Almost
of orange
forgot.
makeup and his stilts and 4 hair transplants and fake teeth and a
Let's
fake
say the same
looking
joke
like
again, man.
Looking like a orange fucking
Is
orangutan.
Melania going to blow him? Then yes.
The last time Melania had sex with Donald Trump was when they
sex
conceived
all the
Barrett.
time. Trump's a horny man. They're banging. Trust me. I know.
Well, clearly he cheated on him. Raw dog the
Maybe
porn
it was
star.
an open deal.
2 weeks after Barrett was born.
Who knows? Relationships are
Do you
complicated.
think Donald Trump has testosterone? He's a real man.
Yeah, he's a real man.
Really? By what standards?
I think he, to the Hunter Biden and Joe Biden standards, he probably fucks just like they fuck, just like how Hunter fucked all those prostitutes. I'm sure Joe fucks, and I'm sure Trump fucks, and I'm happy that at least he fucks women and not little boys like Barack Obama or Bill Clinton probably.
Wait. Barack Obama fucks little boys? We have what? What did you just say?
I mean, maybe he's not a pedophile, but
All
he's
right,
married
here's the
to a
bottom line.
dude. So.
I like Alex. I think at times Alex is very funny, but let's be clear. Barack Obama wasn't on the Epstein flight log or seen with Jeffrey
wasn't cool
Epstein.
enough to get invited.
Joe Biden. Okay, Bill Clinton's not president anymore. The guy who you support is in the Epstein files. You know it. Why don't you admit it?
Well, I would go to Epstein's Island. It's a nice island. We're going to blame the guy for going on a free vacation. I mean, that doesn't mean he banged a kid.
Barack Obama is a happily married man to a beautiful woman named Michelle Obama. Melania Trump has showed us her vagina already.
And it looked nice. And only he didn't like it because he's a fag. But all of us loved it, all right? And we love Melania's sweet, sweet douche, okay?
This is my impersonation of Alex Stein. You ready? Pretend that this is Donald Trump's penis. That's Alex Stein, okay? He is a Trump mushroom gobbler. He knows that Donald Trump is a piece of human scum. He will not publicly denounce anything that Donald Trump does or anything that he says.
No, I don't think he's doing enough. I would argue that he's not doing enough with immigration. He's not doing enough with a lot of stuff. He did good with January 6th, but other than that, he hasn't. He stopped 8 wars that I've never heard of.
He did a lot of good things on January 6th. Let's talk about that.
Well, January 6th. Okay, I'll debate on January 6th.
140 officers were injured that day, and Donald Trump called the people who beat the cops hostages and patriots.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about?
You know that there was FBI agents there in street
let's talk about
clothes.
that. I have a reasoning for that.
Okay.
There were 200,000 people there that were protesting.
But why would they lie about
I'm going to answer that. When you have 200,000 people at a political protest, sometimes there's going to be some FBI agents there. That didn't force people to beat cops. That didn't force people to defecate on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
The FBI was the one that's starting all the beating of the cops. They were the ones who were tearing down America. It's called Asian provocateurs. Because you have guys dressed in there to start drama.
Name me one FBI agent that has been proven to have beaten a police officer that day. You're a liar.
Dude, you know the FBI is corrupt. Look at Cash. Look at Dan. So you think the FBI is going to police itself?
Where are you getting this information from that FBI agents beat cops on January 6th? Give me a source.
What I'm saying is that the FBI encouraged normal citizens to do that. They encouraged normal citizens to be more violent.
Evidence of that? Newsmax?
There's been a lot of instances of what is called Asian provocateurs. Look at the World Trade Organization. They had similar protests in Seattle. I think it was like 94, 96. And they got caught using Asian provocateurs. They were cops in emu, like Seattle drug clothes. I'm just saying, look up the WTO. You know what I'm talking about. They got caught using Asian provocateurs.
Alex, why can't you just call out the people who beat cops on January 6th, who Donald Trump called patriots and hostages?
Because fuck the police, dog! Coming straight out the underground. A young brother got his back because I'm brown. And they think they have the authority to kill a minority. Fuck that shit, because I ain't the one with a motherfucker with a badge and a gun to be beaten on and thrown in jail. We can go toe-to-toe in the middle of a cell fucking with me because I'm a teenager with a little bit of gold in the Patriots pushing my car, looking for the product, thinking every Negro is selling narcotics. Fuck the police.
So hold on.
Fuck the police.
When you're cornered, when you're a MAGA supporter and you're cornered and you cannot defend any of Donald Trump's behaviors or actions, you try to be a horrible MAGA rapper. That's what Alex does.
I'm a good MAGA rapper. I'm the tout old
That's what he does.
Let's not debate my rapping skills. You're going to lose on that. So
You're also a very good liar and a very, very good knee pad, Trump-wearing, knee pad-wearing, right-wing, ridiculous.
I'm a very friendly person. Yeah, that's why I call him. I'm too nice. I'm too loyal.
Why won't you call out Donald Trump for calling them hostages and patriots?
For what?
I'm going to ask you another question. If Donald Trump doesn't lie about the 2020 election, does January 6th happen?
The 2020 election was stolen. It was 100%. So this is how I know it's stolen. When it came to in-person voting, listen. When it came to in-person voting, Donald Trump won all 50 states, even the most liberal. When it came to mail-in ballots, Joe Biden won all 50 states, even the most conservative. So that is a clear indication that they were able to use mail-in ballots.
Here's a clear indication.
They admitted to fortifying.
Alex, here's a clear indication.
Okay.
Donald Trump had 62 opportunities in a courtroom. Every single judge said there was no merit, including Donald Trump appointed judges. What they do is they say the earth is flat. Alex, I've got news for you. The earth is not flat.
It might be.
Donald Trump. I know.
Let's put the brakes.
Donald Trump did not win the 2020 election, and your guy incited the January 6th insurrection. People died that day because of your
Roseanne Boylan died, and who was the girl that got shot?
Brian Sitnick the next day.
Yeah, and that was all fake. He probably killed himself.
Fake.
Yeah, the next day. He probably died from a drug overdose. He dies the next day, but you say he dies on January 6th. So how can somebody die on January 6th if they're died on January 7th? Explain that to me.
We had the coroner who did an autopsy. A week after the autopsy, he is on
so he was a zombie for 12 hours? Is that what it was? He was a zombie? I'm alive, but I'm dead.
Alex, get the MAGA wax out of your ears and pay attention. I have some facts for you, okay? A week after
Quit saying a guy died on January 6th.
Are you going to let me answer? A week after January 6th, the guy who performed the autopsy on Brian Sitnick.
No, I really appreciate that question.
Yeah, wouldn't it be better if we use the United States? Right? As to why?
Species rich.
Look at that bird. Look at him go. Who that bird? Who he is. Watch
In
him do
2017, researchers divided the world into 846 areas known as ecoregions, which can be grouped together into 14 biomes. For nature enthusiasts, this dataset is interesting in its own right, but when compared with other datasets such as elevation, temperature and precipitation, various types of species richness, and the location of natural UNESCO World Heritage Sites, we can better understand what makes each of these biomes unique and what they look like. The defining characteristic of the deserts and xeric shrublands biome is the low levels of rainfall, exhibiting less precipitation than any other terrestrial biome, with the exception of these areas, which we'll cover later on. The world's deserts and xeric shrublands sit mainly around the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, but stretch north into Asia and North America, bringing the average temperature of this biome further down than one might think. It is the second largest of the world's biomes, and is also broken down into the second largest number of ecoregions at 102. The lack of rainfall leads to an extremely small number of amphibians, a level of scarcity matched only in the polar areas. Birds and mammals are also scarce here compared to other biomes, although the desert is still home to many incredible species. Reptiles, however, are the desert's pride and joy, featuring a similar average species density to the flooded grasslands and savannas biome. Perhaps the most famous desert in the world, the Sahara, is also the world's largest, stretching 3.6 million square miles across North Africa, according to National Geographic. Although South America's Atacama Desert is considered by most sources to be the world's driest non-polar desert, when comparing each individual ecoregion to the Chelsea dataset, which includes data from 1979 to 2013, the East Sahara Desert ecoregion exhibits the lowest average precipitation of all 846 ecoregions. On the other side of the African continent, the desert here may be smaller, but contains one of the most unique UNESCO World Heritage Sites and a particularly revered ecoregion. The Kalahari Xeric Savanna is the largest of southern Africa's desert ecoregions, stretching across Namibia, Botswana, and South Africa. Although this ecoregion is included in the desert biome, as its name might suggest, it features noticeably more vegetation than other desert ecoregions, such as the Namib Desert found to the west. This ecoregion runs along Namibia's coastline, and in addition to the wild horses we explored in another video, it is home to the Namib Sand Sea, a World Heritage Site touted by UNESCO as the only coastal desert in the world that includes extensive dune fields influenced by fog. In terms of individual countries, Australia covers the largest portion of the desert biome, with over 12% of this barren land found within the country's borders. The Australian desert is made up of 10 ecoregions, the largest of which, the Great Sandy Tanami Desert, contains one of the country's most well-known UNESCO sites, Uluru Kata Tjuta National Park. If we sort all 102 desert ecoregions by average species richness for reptiles, the Australian ecoregions occupy 9 of the 10 spots, with only Nullarbor Plains xeric shrublands letting the team down. Outside of Australia, there are several countries that make up large portions of the desert biome, including China and Kazakhstan, both of which cover around 7% each. As a continent, Asia exhibits the absolute extremes of the desert biome when it comes to temperature. The tracts of land in the northeast exhibit the lowest temperatures of all the desert ecoregions, including the eastern Gobi Desert steppe and the Kazakh semi-desert. On the other end of the scale, the Arabian Peninsula is home to 3 of the 5 hottest ecoregions, not just in the desert biome, but overall. In North America, the vast majority of the desert biome is found between 2 countries, stretching from Mexico's Puebla province, just south of Mexico City, to the very south of Montana in the northern contiguous United States. Perhaps most incredibly, this area is home to several amphibians, including the Great Basin spadefoot toad and the Sonoran desert toad, named after one of the most well-known desert ecoregions, which is found on the border of the US and Mexico, and is home to a UNESCO World Heritage Site known as El Pinacate and Gran Desierto de Altar Biosphere Reserve. To the north, Grand Canyon National Park is the state's answer to a Desert World Heritage Site, and according to UNESCO's criterion, is an exceptional example of biological environments at different elevations. On the other side of the equator, South America's most famous desert, the Atacama, sits on the Tropic of Capricorn and borders the Sechura Desert to the north. One of the Atacama's most incredible features is its bird life, playing host not only to flocks of flamingos, but hummingbirds as well. Roughly 3,000 kilometers northwest sits one of the most unique ecoregions on Earth, being the only desert to sit on the equator. The Galapagos Islands were inscribed as a World Heritage Site in 1978, and for most nature enthusiasts needs no introduction, and is referred to by UNESCO as a living museum and showcase of evolution. The desert biome overall exhibits the 4th highest average elevation, although there is a large gap to the top 3, with one in particular taking the top spot by quite some margin. The montane grasslands and shrublands biome exhibits the highest average elevation, being found in the world's most mountainous regions, including the Tibetan Plateau and the Andes mountain range. It sits on the lower end of the precipitation table, technically coming in 3rd lowest, although several other biomes have similar average rainfall, including temperate grasslands and the boreal forest. Due to their elevation, the montane grassland ecoregions also exhibit some of the lowest temperatures. Despite being home to some incredible animals, the levels of species richness in these mountainous regions are very similar to that of the desert, but with even less reptiles. The largest expanse of montane grasslands and shrublands by far is found on the northern side of the Himalayas, a region known as the Tibetan Plateau. If we rank all ecoregions by average elevation, 9 of the top 10 are found in this area. Despite being such an inhospitable environment, some of the world's most incredible mammals abide quite happily in this region, including the snow leopard and the Tibetan gazelle, found exclusively on the Tibetan Plateau at elevations of 5,700 meters. Tibetan foxes are also found here, hunting the area's small mammals, along with the kiang, a particularly eye-catching equid, also known as the Tibetan wild ass. The second largest expanse of this biome is located in South America, where it is found at the highest elevations along the Andes mountain range, from Venezuela in the north to Argentina and Chile in the south. The lone ecoregion in the top 10 we explored earlier on is found here, and is known as Central Andean Wet Puna. It is home to 2 UNESCO sites, with Huascarán National Park being the best example of this ecoregion. Mount Huascarán exhibits an elevation of over 6,500 meters, and the grasslands that surround it are dotted with a unique mixture of tropical flora. To the north, Ecuador's Sangay National Park is no less impressive, and is home to a critically endangered species of hummingbird known as the blue-throated hillstar. To the south, the Puna ecoregions extend into Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina, and are home to their very own species of flamingo, the Puna flamingo, along with herds of vicuñas that graze in the area's mountainous grasslands. Although the 2 areas we've covered so far are no doubt breathtaking, the most unique expanse of montane grassland, in my opinion, is found in East Africa, and is represented best by a UNESCO World Heritage Site inscribed in 1978, known as Simien Mountains National Park. There are 3 species in particular that stand out in this region. The Walia ibex, a rare species of wild goat found only in a single small region covering the park. The Ethiopian wolf, which numbers just under 200 mature individuals dotted around the Ethiopian highlands, and the Galada baboon, one of the most eye-catching primates, which is also found only in northern Ethiopia and can be seen in large groups in Simien Mountains National Park. In addition to the montane grasslands, there are 3 other types of grassland biome, the first of which is the 3rd smallest, despite being home to some of the world's most recognizable UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The flooded grasslands and savannas biome is among the hottest of the world's biomes, exhibiting the 5th highest average temperature, and also has the 2nd lowest average elevation, leading to the flooding that characterizes this biome. These areas are world-renowned for their species richness, and in fact, when we take a look at the data, this biome ranks between 5th and 7th for all 4 terrestrial vertebrate groups, with birds being particularly prevalent in these areas. Tragically, this biome has the 2nd smallest number of UNESCO sites, but what it lacks in number, it more than makes up for in reputation, starting on the African continent. The Zambesian flooded grasslands ecoregion is dotted across East and Southern Africa, and in the far southwest is home to one of Africa's most unique locations. The Okavango Delta was added to UNESCO's World Heritage List in 2014, and is known as one of the few inland delta systems without an outlet to the sea. To the south, this area borders the desert we explored earlier on, and is the destination of many animals who make the long migration across the Kalahari to enjoy the Okavango's bountiful waters. Heading north, the flooded grasslands and savannas biome is also dotted across northern Africa, and includes the Nile Delta flooded savanna ecoregion, an area of lush vegetation that follows the Nile River in an otherwise barren Saharan landscape. Outside of Africa, the most well-known flooded grassland is arguably the Pantanal, an ecoregion that sits on the border of Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia, and is home to the Pantanal Conservation Area, another world-renowned UNESCO site. The rainy season here runs from October to April and creates vast wetlands as the rivers overspill into the lowlands. Interestingly, according to UNESCO's criterion, it is during this rainy season that many of the large mammals migrate away from this area, preferring the drier regions at higher elevations before returning to the Pantanal in the dry season, which represents one of the only areas in the region to remain humid in the drier parts of the year. To the north, the United States is also blessed with a single ecoregion contained in this biome, an area known as the Everglades Flooded Grasslands, which plays host to Everglades National Park. In addition to the flooded grasslands of the area, the Everglades features pristine mangrove forests, a biome we'll explore later on. One of the keystone species of the Everglades is the American alligator, a species that was listed as endangered in 1967, but today is found in large numbers, especially in the Everglades, where many sources cite a number of roughly 200,000 individuals. In many cases, especially on the African and South American continents, the flooded grassland areas border another grassland biome known as tropical and subtropical grasslands, savannas, and shrublands. These areas are found at higher elevations, and like the flooded grasslands, are mostly found in the tropics, with only a small percentage falling outside of the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. Tropical grasslands may not receive as much rainfall as the rest of the tropical biomes, leading to less extensive vegetation, but the temperature experienced here is among the hottest in the world, with only 2 biomes exhibiting a higher average annual temperature. The species richness of the tropical grassland biome is among the highest, boasting an especially high number of bird species, being surpassed only by tropical moist forest. There is no area of tropical grassland on the planet that is more famous than the African savanna, an area that represents by far the largest expanse of this biome. On the African continent, the savanna sits between the desert ecoregions we explored earlier on, and is broken up only by a stretch of tropical moist forest that runs along the equator, most notably in the Congo. While the central part of this region is the most renowned, West Africa's tropical grasslands are blessed with a handful of lesser-known UNESCO sites, and by far the largest tropical grasslands ecoregion, which stretches across the entire continent. It is East Africa, however, that contains the World Heritage Sites that most people will be familiar with, particularly east of the Congo, in a country that needs little introduction, Tanzania. This country contains 3 natural World Heritage Sites. Serengeti National Park, which is subject to one of the world's most spectacular migrations, as herds of wildebeest and zebra make the annual migratory loop between the Serengeti in the south and Kenya's Masai Mara in the north, all while crossing the treacherous Grumeti and Mara rivers. Ngoro Conservation Area, which is a mixed
Fucking
UNESCO
teething
site,
pains, man.
added to the World Heritage List to protect Ngoro Crater, the world's largest caldera, and the incredible biodiversity that abides within. And finally, Selous Game Reserve to the south, which measures 50,000 square kilometers and is famous for its large number of black rhinoceros, African elephants, and many other animals. The southern part of Africa's savanna includes an endless list of protected areas, including South Africa's Kruger National Park and Naipan National Park, neither of which is a World Heritage Site, but both of which are worth including to pad out the African savanna section and for how fun the word Naipan is to pronounce. Heading out of Africa, it would be somewhat tempting to skip the small strip of tropical grassland found on the Asian continent on our journey to Australia, if it were not for the presence of one of the most incredible UNESCO sites inscribed in 1984. Chitwan National Park is particularly well known for its populations of Asian rhinoceros, also known as the greater one-horned rhino, and its Bengal tigers, with more than 100 individuals found within the park boundary, according to a study published in 2023. Where there are large predators like tigers, there are also prey species, and Chitwan is blessed with several deer species, along with gaur or Indian bison. Heading south, Australia also contains a large strip of tropical grasslands, which runs along the northeastern coastline and contains 5 UNESCO sites, 2 of which provide an interesting comparison. Purnalulu National Park is located on the southern edge of this region. It is famous for its sandstone rock formations and, being much closer to the desert biome, is noticeably drier than Kakadu National Park, found to the north. Kakadu is a mixed World Heritage Site, celebrated both for its Ramsar-listed wetlands, home to saltwater crocodiles and a wide range of bird species, and its cave paintings, rock carvings, and archaeological sites. On the other side of the Pacific, the South American continent is home to 2 other areas with significant stretches of tropical grassland, the most well-known of which is arguably Brazil's Cerrado, which is both an ecoregion and a World Heritage Site, referred to by UNESCO as one of the oldest and most diverse ecosystems in the world. In addition, to the north sits Venezuela's answer to the Cerrado, an area known as Los Llanos, which translates in English to the plains. This region is subject to some of the highest levels of rainfall of all of the ecoregions in this biome, along with the 5th highest average reptile species density, home to, among other species, the green anaconda. The tropical grasslands of South America are bordered by both tropical forest biomes, tropical dry and tropical moist forest, both of which are incredibly distinct and both of which we'll explore in succession. The tropical and subtropical dry broadleaf forests are characterized by lower levels of rainfall than the moist broadleaf forests, although precipitation is still considered high compared to other biomes. Additionally, these dry areas also exhibit a slightly higher temperature than their moist counterparts, being surpassed only by the mangrove biome. Levels of species richness are roughly the same as the tropical grasslands, but with noticeably higher reptiles, again being surpassed only by one biome, this time the tropical moist forests. South America's largest expanse of the dry broadleaf forest is an ecoregion known as Caatinga, an indigenous word meaning white forest or white vegetation. Of the 56 ecoregions in the tropical dry forest, Caatinga exhibits some of the lowest levels of average rainfall. With this in mind, amphibian species richness is surprisingly high, along with one of the highest average levels of reptiles for the dry forest biome. Despite being less of an outlier, both the mammals and birds of the Caatinga are no less interesting, with several birds in particular being named after this ecoregion. Moving north, Central America is a tapestry of forest biomes, with a strip of tropical dry forest running along the western side of the isthmus. In this part of the world, there are 2 UNESCO sites in particular that represent this biome. Although Costa Rica is known mostly for its species-rich tropical moist forests, Área de Conservación Guanacaste is touted by UNESCO as including the best dry forest habitats from Central America to northern Mexico, something that fans of our next World Heritage Site might disagree with. In Mexico, the Balsas dry forest ecoregion is home to the Tehuacan-Cuicatlan Valley, an area rich with various species of cacti, producing a particularly unique landscape. In addition to the Americas, Asia also exhibits some fantastic examples of this biome. The dry forests of India
on how very similar. And we've got our courseplay window open up here. Now, just while we're in here, I am using 8.0.0.4. If you saw my video on the Combine unloading, I did revert back to that and haven't updated it yet. So 8.0.0.5 is out at the moment. But of course, always check that you do have the most current copy of courseplay. But as you can see, we're currently on fieldwork. Now, if we click on this, you'll see it's now going to change and go into a bale collect and bale wrap mode. So we're doing obviously the bale wrapping option. Now we don't need to copy a course, we don't actually need a course or anything like this. You can see there we've got bales left, and as soon as we specify the field, so we'll just jump into here, we need to tell it what field we're doing this in, and we can go and put that there. We'll give it a target position, really doesn't matter. And then you've got a setting down here of all bales. So what do we want to wrap? Well, it doesn't matter for this because this is only for collecting. We obviously want to wrap all bales, but it's not going to try and wrap unwrapped ones. So we're just going to jump in here. That'll become relevant when we bring the bale wagon in here. But that's all pretty much set up. So if we just jump back out of here now, still got that all created. Yes, just double checking. And we're just going to press play. This is now going to unfold and hopefully going to go and find the first bale and start working its way through the field. It's calculating how many bales there are to collect, and there you go, it's gone from 0, it's now telling us there are 33 bales to wrap. It's going to tell us how many there are left. So it basically gets to the bale, starts wrapping it. Now this is a bit of a process. It doesn't drive around or do anything with them, it just basically wraps them and we'll drop them off there where we are.
Does this not do grass?
The only other setting we have is an offset that basically tells the edge of the bale wrapper from the tractor, so you can see if we move that around. Of course, once again, click on the bale pickup offset and it will automatically specify that. relative to the piece of equipment on the back. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Again, you don't need to do anything apart from tell it what field you're doing it in and making sure that the wrapper and everything is compatible with what you're trying to do. So we're just going to leave that running for just a little bit, let it get ahead a little bit before we go and bring the bale trailer in and start picking up some bales. The 10 bales are down. This will be our 11th, so we're a third of the way through the 33 bales. So I think that's probably enough. As you can see, it doesn't sort of follow any rationale as to where it goes. It just can detect where the bales are. So I guess it goes for the nearest one from where it is, although it doesn't make sense with the one that are there very close by, but probably just looks for where is the closest one in the direction I'm heading, so it doesn't have to do a lot of maneuvering. Assuming it's going to go and pick up this one, probably finish off this corner down here with these half dozen, then go and do the other side of the field. But there we go, that's all working out just as I expect it should and how it should work. So let's go and jump up in the other tractor with the bale trailer and start getting some bales loaded up. Alright, we're over here in the other Vulture with the Anderson bale trailer on the back now. Once again, we had a few more issues with the version of Courseplay. We've actually gone back to version 5.8.0.05 now, and things from a quick little test seem to want to work. I'll explain what the issue was in just a second, but let's have a look at how we create the course. It's basically exactly the same as the way we did the bale wrapper. So we need to go into here into our window, change that to bale collect and wrap. Now this is where the selection of bale types is critical because the wrapper's still out there wrapping. We have some grass bales and some wrapped bales. We want to have only wrapped. If we left the all bales on, we would obviously pick up all the bales, and there's an option there to only pick up the not wrapped ones. So pretty handy little setting there. Does mean we can start while the wrapper's still going. The pickup offset, that doesn't really matter. Now we need to go into our target exactly the same we had. And once again, our field position is where we are, and target position I've just got set here on the edge. It could be exactly where we are. In fact, if we do just do it where we are, it'll probably start off a little bit faster. So let's jump back in here. We're going to press start job, and this is going to tell us there is 21 bales left to collect. Previously, when I got to this stage, it wouldn't actually pick up the wrapped bales. It would pick up the unwrapped bales, but not the wrapped bales. So I'm pleased that this seems to be a bug that's been either solved between versions, or it may have been that I saved the game and exited and it started working. I don't know. There is obviously, like I've said a few times, it is still a developer version. This is still a work in progress. There is still things that need to be resolved and that you might find through your play. So once again, do make sure you report any issues to the team at Courseplay so that they can go through and help sort them out. And make sure you've got your log file with them, because they don't seem to like it if you don't have your log file. But there we go. That is about all there is to show. We're just going to let this race around very quickly. We'll time lapse it doing a pickup, and then we'll see what happens once it's finished. My expectations is that it'll either sit in the field exactly where it is when it gets to 24 bales, or it's going to go and wait back at that target point that we have.
India make up 30% of the country's landmass and include one of the country's most unique elements, being the only nation in the world to host a population of lions outside of the African continent. The Kathia Gir dry deciduous forests is an ecoregion found on the eastern side of the country, a small portion of which hosts the Asiatic lions that roam the forests of Gir National Park. According to a May 2025 article in the Times of India, this population has increased by over a third since the last census in 2020 and now numbers 891 lions. Moving along, Southeast Asia is also home to a large patch of dry forest, represented best by Thailand's Donghayayeng Khao Yai forest complex, which contains 4 of Thailand's national parks. According to the park's website, Khao Yai National Park is home to over 70 species of mammals, including between 140 to 200 Asiatic elephants, over 280 bird species, including various species of hornbill and the banded kingfisher, and many species of reptiles and amphibians, including Vogel's green pit viper. Before we depart to the near endless biodiversity of the world's tropical moist forests, it would be a shame not to touch on one of Madagascar's most incredible UNESCO sites, Cinque de Bemara Strict Nature Reserve, both for the incredible landscape and for the presence of Deccan sifaka, one of the most unique primates, a critically endangered species of lemur found only in this ecoregion. Madagascar is also home to Marjeji National Park, positioned on the northeastern side of the country, embedded deep within our next biome.
That's
One
beautiful.
that promises to be quite a journey around the world's most biodiverse areas. The tropical and subtropical moist broadleaf forests biome is found mainly in 3 areas. The Neotropics, which contains the Amazon, the Afrotropics, which contains the forests of the Congo, and the Indo-Malayan realm, which includes Borneo, Sumatra, and many other famously biodiverse locations. This biome exhibits extremely high levels of rainfall, comparable only to that of the mangrove biome, which we'll cover next. Temperature is also high here, although not especially, with the tropical grasslands, dry forests, and mangroves all ranking above the moist forests in terms of average temperature. It is species richness, however, where the tropical moist broadleaf forests biome really shines, exhibiting by far the highest levels of average species richness in all 4 terrestrial vertebrate groups, with no other biome coming close in any category. Of these areas of moist forest, there is one in particular that exhibits far greater levels of species richness than any other, and is found on the South American continent. The Amazon stretches 6.7 million square kilometers across the northern half of South America, according to the WWF, and it's packed full of animals. In terms of individual ecoregions, the Iquitos Varsia displays the highest average levels of species richness for both birds and amphibians, while the Gurupa Varsia on the other side of the Amazon boasts the highest average levels of reptile species. In case you're interested, the word Várzea translates to floodplains in Portuguese. The mammals of the area also do not disappoint, with the Ghanaian lowland moist forests to the north exhibiting the highest average levels of species richness. Positioned slap bang in the center of the Amazon is a World Heritage Site known as the Central Amazon Conservation Complex, and although this video focuses mainly on the terrestrial biomes, UNESCO specifically notes this site's importance as being home to the largest array of electric fish in the world, and also mentions threatened species such as the Amazonian manatee, the black caiman, and 2 species of river dolphin. On the outskirts of the Amazon sits the tallest waterfall in the world, Angel Falls, which Guinness World Records puts at a total drop of 979 meters, with the largest single section dropping an incredible 807 meters. This natural wonder is found in Venezuela's Canaima National Park, which of course is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The American stretch of tropical forest extends through Colombia and into Panama, an area known as the Darien, and runs up the east coast of Central America, terminating not far from
What's
the
the
US
cosplay
border.
one?
For most of us, Central America's stretch of tropical forest is more accessible than the depths of the Amazon, and countries such as Costa Rica and Mexico are well known for their pristine stretches of rainforest. Guatemala's Tikal National Park is a mixed World Heritage Site, embedded in one of the most dense stretches of jungle in Central America. This ancient site was inhabited by the Mayan civilization from the 6th century BC all the way to the 10th century AD. The landscape is also part of UNESCO's criterion, stating that this site is part of the larger Maya forest, which is present in Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize. There is perhaps one location that is even more mysterious than the Amazon. The Congo is Africa's great stretch of tropical forest, and although the species richness here is not quite on the same level as the Amazon, there are multiple species of great ape, something the Amazon lacks, along with a greater number of World Heritage Sites. Okapi Wildlife Reserve sits in the northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo and was founded to protect, you guessed it, the closest living relative to the giraffe, the okapi. In addition to these funny-looking creatures, this reserve contains 376 documented species of birds and 101 mammals, including 17 species of primate, which UNESCO states is the highest number for an African forest. To the south, there are several national parks that we've explored before on this channel, including Virunga and Bwindi Impenetrable Forest, but it is to the center of the Congo we are headed, to a particularly unique protected area known as Salonga National Park. This heritage site sits in the heart of the Congolese rainforest and is home to the Congo peacock, forest elephants, and the bonobo, also known as the pygmy chimpanzee. Having covered the Congo and the Amazon, there is one more major expanse of tropical forest left for us to explore, starting with an island to the east. New Guinea is split between the countries of Papua New Guinea and Indonesia, and contains some of the ecoregions with the highest average levels of precipitation on the planet. It is a birdwatcher's paradise, quite literally, with multiple birds of paradise calling the island their home, alongside interesting mammals such as tree kangaroos. To the west, several large islands are known the world over for their biodiversity, not least of which is Borneo, an island shared between Indonesia, Malaysia and Brunei. Borneo is home to 2 World Heritage Sites, both found on the northeastern side of the island. It is estimated that Kinabalu Park contains between 5,000 to 6,000 vascular plant species, including 1,000 species of orchid. Indonesia's Sumatra is another island known for hosting some of the world's rarest species. Unfortunately, the tropical rainforest heritage of Sumatra has been on the list of World Heritage in Danger since 2011. It comprises 3 of the island's national parks, 10,000 plant species, and almost 600 species of birds. On the mainland, China contains the 3rd largest percentage of this biome at 8.3%, which sits just behind Indonesia at 8.6% in second place. If you haven't guessed it yet, the country in the top spot we explored earlier on. Brazil contains a whopping 25.9% of this biome, which is 4 times that of India, a country that we'll segue to for the last spectacular tropical moist forest national park. Kaziranga National Park is found in the Indian state of Assam and is blessed with the world's largest population of one-horned rhinoceros, which was the reason for its inscription on the World Heritage List in 1985, and at one time also held the greatest number of tigers in the country. It sits on the southern bank of the Brahmaputra River, which leads down into the Bay of Bengal, where we meet our next biome and one particularly disturbing tiger population. Collectively, the world's mangroves make up the smallest biome, but what they lack in landmass, they more than make up for in ecological statistics. Interestingly, the mangroves biome on average exhibits higher levels of precipitation than the moist tropical forests, being found along some of the world's rainiest coastlines. The 2 notable exceptions to this are the mangroves found on either side of the Arabian Peninsula, where the levels of rainfall are the lowest in this biome. Similarly, this combination of locations means the mangroves exhibit the hottest average temperature, and due to their position along the coastline, this biome also has by far the lowest average elevation, with the next lowest, the flooded grasslands biome, exhibiting an average elevation over 20 times that of the world's mangrove forests. Although not an outlier, species richness is also extremely high in these areas, particularly with birds and reptiles. Given its small size, there are only 3 natural UNESCO World Heritage Sites inside of this biome, all of which we'll explore in succession, starting in Asia. Sundarbans National Park sits on the border of India and Bangladesh, and is part of the larger Sundarbans ecoregion, which stretches further east and west than the national park. According to UNESCO, it is the world's largest area of mangrove forests, sitting at the mouths of both the Ganges River and the Brahmaputra, which we met earlier on, as they flow into the Bay of Bengal. It also supports the single largest population of tigers in the world, which have become highly adapted to this habitat. Alarmingly, they also mentioned that this particular population of tigers is infamous for eating humans. There is a Wikipedia page dedicated to this subject, which even mentions tigers swimming onto boats due to their strong swimming capabilities. Moving on to somewhere safer, oh my goodness. Everglades National Park, as we discovered earlier on, sits at the juncture of the flooded grasslands and mangroves biome, where thankfully alligator attacks are rare and fatalities even more so. An interesting crocodilian fact from a previous video: the Floridian Peninsula is the only place in the world home to both the American alligator and the American crocodile. This area represents the largest mangrove system in the Western Hemisphere and is teeming with fascinating bird life, including the roseate spoonbill, along with various species of heron. Everglades National Park was placed on the list of World Heritage in Danger in 2010, something that fortunately is not the case for our last mangrove heritage site. Mexico's Xi'an sits on the eastern side of the Yucatan Peninsula and is nothing short of breathtaking. The name Xi'an is Mayan, and depending on the source of the translation means something to the effect of origin of the sky or where the heavens were born. Unsurprisingly, Xi'an is also home to several terrifying predators, such as jaguars and the puma, also known as the mountain lion or cougar. Being the smallest biome, mangroves are roughly half the size of the next region on our list. In addition to being the second smallest in size, the tropical and subtropical coniferous forests biome exhibits the smallest number of ecoregions at 15, the majority of which are found in one area in North America. Although the Himalayas, the Philippines and Sumatra feature relatively small tracts of tropical coniferous forests, Mexico is home to almost 70% of this unique habitat. The topography here is among the most elevated of the world's biomes, with only the montane grasslands of the world exhibiting a higher average elevation. It is this elevation that makes this biome unique, exhibiting the lowest temperature of the world's tropical biomes, and contains just one natural UNESCO World Heritage Site, but one of the most unique. Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve is located 2 hours west of Mexico City, and is the site of one of the most impressive migrations in the animal kingdom. Each winter, millions of monarch butterflies overwinter in the tropical and subtropical coniferous forests of Mexico, having made the long migration, sometimes upwards of 3,000 miles, from the eastern United States and Canada. The World Heritage Site was created in 2008 and protects overwintering sites for up to 70% of the total overwintering population from the East Coast. This biome shares an almost identical elevation to the conifer forests of the world's temperate regions, and if we look at this table, we see a noticeable drop-off to the next group of biomes. The temperate conifer forests biome is one of only 3 found exclusively in the Northern Hemisphere,
Getting
and
cold.
sits almost entirely between the Tropic of Cancer and the Arctic Circle. This biome exhibits an interesting combination of temperature and precipitation, with rainfall being somewhat average, and given its altitude and its position outside of the tropics, the average temperature here is among the lowest of the world's biomes, with only montane grasslands, boreal forests, and tundra exhibiting lower temperatures. These conditions lead to lower levels of species richness, particularly among reptiles, although many interesting species still abide here, while birds and amphibians fare slightly better. It is the mammals of this biome, however, that thrive compared to others, sporting the highest average mammal species richness of any temperate biome. North America in particular contains some of the world's most well-known temperate conifer forests, all of which are found on the west coast. Yosemite National Park contains 3 groves of giant sequoia, which grow at mid-elevation in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. The forests here are home to species of deer, along with both bobcats and mountain lions. Perhaps the most revered national park in this biome is Yellowstone, known both for its geothermal features and its incredible biodiversity, including grizzly bears, bison, wolves, and elk. Further north, the Central Pacific Northwest Coastal Forests ecoregion, which is home to Olympic National Park, receives the highest average levels of precipitation of any ecoregion in this biome, creating some of the most incredible forests in the United States. The US and Canada contain by far the largest portions of this biome, at 30 and 23% respectively, with both Russia and China coming in third and fourth, with 12 and 13% respectively. China's portion of the temperate conifer forests biome contains a UNESCO World Heritage Site known as Sichuan Giant Panda Sanctuaries, Wulong, Mount Zheguanyang, and Jiajian Mountains. This area is a little closer to the tropics, but sits at higher elevations where temperatures are cooler, and as the biome runs along the Himalayas, it mixes in with the tropical conifer forests we explored earlier on. If you thought China's temperate conifer forests were beautiful, I'd like to introduce you to a continent known as Europe. This biome is found in several of Europe's most famous mountain ranges. The conifer forests of the United Kingdom are found in northern Scotland and are exhibited best by Cairngorms National Park, the largest in the UK, where both red deer and reindeer can be found. In Eastern Europe, the Carpathian montane forests wrap around from Poland in the north to Romania in the south, and are home to the largest population of brown bears in Europe. Finally, Central Europe boasts the Alps conifer and mixed forests, which is home to 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, including the Dolomites in Italy and 2 areas in Switzerland, one of the countries with the largest percentage of its landmass covered by this biome, 56%. In the Northern Hemisphere, the temperate conifer forests are found at roughly the same latitudes as the temperate broadleaf and mixed forests. However, the latter is also found in the Southern Hemisphere too. Temperate broadleaf and mixed forests exhibit the most precipitation of the world's temperate biomes, with slightly more rainfall than the temperate conifer forests. Temperature here is average, along with one of the lowest average elevations. These average conditions lead to an average abundance of animals. However, this is the most impressive biome outside of the tropics for bird enthusiasts.
Wow.
And also contains the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites of all of the world's biomes, at over 350, including cultural sites, making temperate broadleaf and mixed forests a hot contender for the world's most interesting biome. The largest contiguous patch of this habitat is found in Europe, sitting between the boreal forests to the north and the Mediterranean forests to the south. It is the temperate broadleaf and mixed forests of Europe that contain some of the continent's most cherished national parks. The unique landscape of Plitvice Lakes National Park, Croatia's largest, is not only home to the pristine waterfalls it's most well known for, but an abundance of of wildlife.
There's a few guards out there like Rottweilers, and they're just like...
Ow! Oh! Ow! Oi! Ouch! Oof! Ow! Let's look at what the poor medieval common soldier can actually do against massed archery. Hi folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatore, and hopefully you've just watched Arrows vs Armour 3 with Todd and Toby and Will and all of my friends there. Absolutely fantastic. I was actually behind the scenes for the first day of it. Just brilliant, brilliant project. Anyway, thank you to all of the backers for that, and obviously if you haven't seen it yet, but I'm sure you have, then go and check that out now. I'll stick a link down below. But looking at it and looking at the results, which, to be honest, were fascinating for me, and I hope they were for you as well, one of the questions that immediately comes up that I think that a lot of people like you, watching channels like mine and Todd's, will probably want to know is, what can you do if you're a late medieval common infantryman? And yes, this is the same poleaxe from the video, incidentally, which I lent to them for that, and it's even got some scars on it from the arrows. But what can they do when you know that you're going to be facing massed archery shooting from longbows, hitting you, wounding you potentially? What can you possibly do? So in this video, we're going to look at the context behind the common medieval infantryman and what they can do somewhat to mitigate the fact that they might have hundreds of arrows being shot at them. So I think that one of the most important takeaways from watching Arrows vs Armour 3, and in fact Arrows vs Armour 1 and 2 that went before it, was that gaps are more important than armour penetration. So while there's this fixation on what can a longbow arrow, or what can a crossbow bolt, or what can even firearms do to armour, the fact is that armour always has gaps, and that was one of the more obvious themes, I think, of Arrows vs Armour 3, because we're looking at a common infantryman who in this case had exposed male areas, a skirt, armpits. We'll talk about these a little bit later in this video. And of course, he didn't have armour on his legs. So clearly, anywhere that the arrows were going to hit where there wasn't plate or brigandine was going to do immediate damage. It's pretty much guaranteed. It's very rare, actually, to see mail stop the arrows. I mean, sometimes we see particularly dense weave mail or aventails with denser padding underneath stop arrows. It does happen, but very, very often, as we see, when an arrow finds a mailed gap where there isn't plate, and it really highlights the usefulness of plate armour here, or indeed brigandines, when it finds mail or where it finds just, clothing or flesh, clearly the arrow's going to wound. So the gaps are more important than the armour penetration. But that being said, I don't want to ignore the fact that we did get armour penetration. As I've been saying all along, there are a couple of 100 years of royal edicts saying that arrows must have steel heads on them, that they must be well steeled, and this is something that we've had back and forth after Arrows vs Armour 2, and I've done videos with Will Sherman myself and of course with Todd talking about this very issue. And the fact is that we know that English kings considered it incredibly important to have steeled, hardened arrowheads. So therefore, those heads must have been intended to pierce something. Now, on the subject of armour penetration, I want to only really say one thing about piercing of the plate. That is that sometimes it can happen, but statistically it's not actually very important, because what's important is if you're throwing thousands and thousands of arrows at the opposing army, what you're really hoping to do is penetrate mail and penetrate anything less than mail. So fabric, padded things like gambesons and acetons and things like this. Those are what statistically are going to cause most of the injuries. However, it is fair, I think, to point out that in Arrows vs Armour 3 and the previous tests, we did see plate get penetrated by arrowheads, and particularly even more now is the case now that we've got hardened steel arrowheads, type 16s and 21Bs, that do bite into plate. Now, the plates that we saw penetrated in Arrows vs Armour 3, I think the minimum was about 1.2 millimeters thick. Now, I went and looked up the measurements, the stats for the Visby coated plates. And what's interesting is some of those plates are as thin as 0.7 millimeters. And this is true if we look at lots of other armor. Not necessarily the front of a brigandine, definitely not a helmet, or at least generally not a helmet. But sometimes arm and leg armor can be quite thin plates, as thin as 0.6, 0.7 of a millimeter, very commonly 1 millimeter, and it's not always, of course, hardened steel. It's very often in period wrought iron, or the equivalent of what we'd now call mild steel. So when you're dealing with very thin plates in certain areas, yes, sometimes an arrow will go enough through a plate. It might not kill the person, but it might wound or incapacitate them to make them far less effective on the battlefield. But enough of plate penetration. The real purpose of this video is to ask, how could a common soldier wearing equipment like we saw in Arrows vs. Armour 3, how could they mitigate and minimise their risk going onto a battlefield where they knew there were going to be lots of enemy longbows? Well, before we dive into that, a very important context section. So we have to set the context before we try and answer the question. Okay, so the first thing to point out is that the figure that we see in Arrows vs. Armour has a brigandine over mail